Thank you for checking in. It's Glenn, your poetry ambassador from Prolific Press, with our August 2023 poetry reading event. All the poets are invited to read up to 3 pieces, and we hope you enjoy the show. We'll get started with Lynette Esposito, please.
Am I muted? Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
All right, it's Lynette Esposito from Mount Laurel, New Jersey. I have kind of downer poems today because last time I was kind of silly. It's called Chill in the Cemetery. Are the leaves colder in the graveyard as they float over the granite stones, like color-changing wings blanketing artificial flowers and fresh cut alike? I shiver, fragile as the already dead, who cannot feel the passing of fall air as it breezes through the tombs, its breath lifting the leaves as if they were still alive, guiding them as they try to rise again.
Very nice.
The second one is contemplation. In our flight toward death, sometimes our wings are clipped and we can no longer reach the heights. Stars become things of midnight blended into indigo. And while we work to flutter our limbs as if flight is the only thing, our feet entombed in wet clay remain stationary. Write nothing on the dirt, no footprint. The stars do not care. And I don't give a damn. We are the same, even as our light goes out. And the last one, because I was ready with 3. I hoped I could read 3. It's at the ocean in late fall. The water begins to cool along the Jersey shore. Soon dolphins will leave, summer behind. I take a boat ride out to see them in the wild. I feel the breeze spraying seawater on my face as the boat cradles and rocks. The young captain calls 2:00. I turn to watch a large pod of dolphins frolicking in the distance. A whale, after spouting, rises out of the ocean, then dives. His tail looks like a pair of dark angel wings disappearing into the water. The twilight sun casts a golden ribbon on the ocean waves. I am content at season's end. And that's it.
Very nice. That in that first piece, the word tombs really hit me. And, we don't hear that very often, that word anymore. I don't know. Everybody says the word grave, but
I'm a little weird. I like the word tombstone. And I would use it over and over. It just, I don't know, it makes me laugh, but I don't know why. Maybe it's all those old Westerns.
Maybe it's because you like pizza.
That's maybe, you've got it. Yes, that's right.
Tombstone
now I
pizza.
know. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Glenn.
Could be. It could be. All right. Let's go over to Gloria Caviglia, please.
You're muted, Gloria.
Yep, you're muted. Let me just push the little button here.
Okay.
There
we
you
go.
are.
Okay. All right. Ain't no good reason on God's green earth why this woman cannot sing her own song. You came into my life like a runaway train, blowing your horn for me to get out of your way when you needed to reach your destination. While I waited at every station for you, looking anxiously left and right, lest I should miss your arrival. I tried to get off the tracks, but you were hell-bent on making sparks turn into flames so you could run full steam ahead, with or without me. Never stopping, but just sailing through to God knows where. I wanted to sing, to shout out your name, even though my voice couldn't be heard above your sound, which bore down on me with leaden weight. My song began to fade, but I too can make sparks turn into flames. I too can run full steam ahead, with or without you, never stopping until I get to where I want to be, singing my song above your noise and fading you into silence. I think I may have read this before, but I'll read it again.
Sure.
We've danced together for half a century, my feet taking a back step to your forward moves, twirled, dipped, upright again. As I meet your gaze, I see my reflection in your eyes. You are me, but then I suppose that I am you too. We become one in this dance. 50 years of synchronicity. It's playful, almost coquettish. Let's not burden with the past, but embrace the future. Eyes locked together once again as we take our position. Our story doesn't end here. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice. "50 years of synchronicity." That's a good part to pull out of there. All right, let's go to our new friend, Elizabeth.
All right. Hello, all.
Hi.
I'm out here in Athens, Georgia, so it's very hot, but I've got two pieces for you guys today. This first one is pretty much a description of my last relationship. He was fire and ash. His touch burned like ice, and his eyes were possessive. I was water and rot. My body was soft, and I hated to be kept. We were perfect together. Yeah. And this one was from a challenge in a poetry marathon I did, and you have to take a line of poetry from another poem and then use every single word in the poem you make.
Oh, cool.
So the line is from Elizabeth Bishop's One Art, and the line is, "The art of losing isn't hard to master." And this is a poem I wrote with that. When you told me the lines I drew in my skin were art, intricate patterns of pain you saw as love, I knew this wasn't the way to treat a hard case so determined to make pain their master. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. I like that line. His eyes were possessive, right? I thought that was very, very strong, and it's interesting because it sort of plays both ways, right? Because it is, in fact, a possessive. His eyes, right? But he's talking about you, and it's just this double whammo. That's very, very nice. Good use of language there. Dennis Malsby, please.
I've got two traditional haiku and then a bit of free verse. And I will put those up for you to look at. Heat thick as yogurt. Dog and I walk hot concrete. Legs in 2/4 time. Lilacs dress for spring. Among them a bumblebee and old man play tag. And the second one, 9/11 is coming up. And this was first published in my poetry, Near Death, Near Life, and that was edited by Glenn and published by Prolific Press. Pictures from orbit, Tuesday, 9/11/01. The satellite camera clicks. In a globe of clouds and air, a tiny city shakes. White flakes swirl in streets between smoking glass towers. The telephoto lens zooms closer. Veins of fire snake crawl upwards. Shattered crystal eyes weep little dolls to fall and break upon the concrete. Stone and metal avalanche down, sweep away men in blue and yellow. Smoke and ash billow out to make running people gray. No black, white, red, or brown. A day of only one race. They beg for 100 years of sleep.
Wow. Wow, what an ending. All right, well, thank you for that. It's good to have you back, Dennis. All right, well, let's go over to Hawaii and hear from Patrice Wilson, please.
Hello, everybody. Speaking of COVID, I had a bout of that last week or so. But anyway, it's over now, more or less, mostly more. I want to read, I think I want to read three pieces. The first one is called Storm Windows and set in my hometown in New Jersey. Storm Windows. Chill became frost, green screens that had let summer into the house. Its daytime breezes, its nighttime zephyrs, became no hindrance to impending icy climate. Dad brought down from the attic tall, hefty windows he had to balance, bending through every bedroom pane with each heavy load, hooking them onto the outside wall above each empty opening. For the first floor, he could use a ladder on the lawn. For front porch and living room, he could simply hook them on, but not up here on the second floor, where everyone slept cozier for his precarious work. Yet whatever of love he mixed with burden, I never knew, as he heaved such weight above 3 stories of wood and plaster and paint, where he had begotten 3 girls, who kept out of the way of his terse remarks, harsh words slapping us in the face. Dad, we have since moved so very far from the circle of snowdrifts around the home I never wanted to leave, not knowing then, and you not knowing, how thoroughly we were blocking out so much more than the stark stoic ravages of bitter cold. Um, Next one, this poem I just read was published by a magazine called Thimble the end of last year. This one I just wrote lately. I don't know how you feel about imitations, but you will recognize whom I am imitating here. This is called Acquainted with This Day. I have been one acquainted with this day. Its glaring sun, its rain, its sleet, its hail. I've seen the city without its charming lights, looked up and seen no comforting moon or stars. The clocks all bared their ominous faces in broad and blatant daylight, blaring loud against the chance for godly human graces, while men and women prospered and or failed amid the too high slabs of concrete walls and glass reflecting only what was there. I've seen no sunset, pink or rouge or gray, no hint of restful darkness anywhere. No ray of sacred shadow have I seen. I have been one acquainted with this day. And, and the last one, this was published in a let's say, a magazine called Otherwise Engaged. This is called Nocturne with Afterthought. This night we meet in a warm indoor, stream easy jazz mind, heartful, soul skin, everywhere soft. Oh, love, let's not swim ever again, only float together into memory outside of time, stride no more away from each other. That's it. Thank
Well,
you.
I think might be one of the strongest readings I've heard from you, Patrice. It was very, very thought-provoking.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to
Well,
pause here for just a second. And I'm kind of a believer, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think at this point in our history of our culture, everything we put on the internet is going to always be there somewhere. I think people are always going to be able to dig it up. So, got some bad news today that Bob Barker passed away. He was 99 years old. I was really hoping that he would make it to 100. And I remember, and I don't know why, I'm just kind of rooting for him. And I just remember so many uh, times being a young person watching The Price is Right, and he was quite a character and very interesting fellow. So if you come across this video many years from now, you might look him up and see what he's about. So I'm going to share my screen. I think I'm going to read a couple pieces because we have a really small group. I really didn't plan to, so with your permission, I'm going to pull them off of my website, and then the order following that will be Mike Flanagan, Francis Flavin, James, Bob, Doug, Debbie, Carol, and Bob Whalen. Okay, so that's the order. So just a couple of pieces here. Can you guys see this? Yeah. First one, it's Nobody's Horse. These are some older things. Near the low end of the meadow, there's a yellow horse. It lives there between the meadow and the pond. It lives on someone's land because everything is claimed, but I know not whose. It is, perhaps, the most beautiful horse I will ever see, and yet it is blind. It knows nothing of beauty. It is nobody's horse, and even if it did belong to anyone, this horse with its opaque eyes might never know it. Even the priceless thoroughbreds may be unaware. This is a piece that I penned. My dad used to live on a piece of property that had a lot of woods that I used to enjoy walking in. It's called My Father's Woods. Walking through my father's woods, I am reminded of the Eden of nature, of the sinless creatures high and low. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, but they are nourished there. Walking through my father's woods, I am read by blind saplings reaching out to read my face. They are the turnstiles of the forest, spreading out their arms to count the parishioners called to prayer, and their bent fingers resemble the creation of Adam. When I pass, they point to where the sinner went. They are frail church ushers standing watch, but unable to enforce piety. Walking through my father's woods, I see the sun shining through the noble towers, creating shadows that conceal the emerald ash borer's slow progression. The soggy black earth yields easily beneath my feet, succumbing to the weight of so much pressure, leaving dispirited vestibules behind, vessels slowly filling with muddy sacred water. In my father's woods, I am surrounded by a bewildered audience, keenly aware, wondering what to make of me and my clumsy trudging about. It is judgment day for me. I become a crescendo the moment before the denouement when the music stops and the audience suspends, silently waiting for God knows what to happen next. And if I become still, like the statue of Saint Finan, a 7-minute cemented interlude, I can hear them like angels discussing me from the balcony and scribbling Nephilim in the book of Jubilees. And on that theme, this sort of ties in with my dad and this the tide. It's one of those read in between the lines kind of poems, but it's the tide. Come August, we will embrace again as sailors do. the red sky at night, a sailor's delight, being the promise the morning sun brings, the crucifixion to the rainy skies. We will always embrace the changing of the skies, the broken morning, the shining sun. My dad comes in August with the first tides, casting his nets for prawns and for me. It is the time for feasting and boasting and lying, and some sorrowful August too soon, Dad's last cast will break the water. Thank you guys for that, for the support. All right, Michael Flanagan, please.
I have actually had I had three haikus, but I jumped one of them because Lynette's great prompt about tombstones. The first two, I went to an Oban festival in Como Park the other day and saw this. It was Early Harvest, the art colony discovers my dropped potato skin. Early harvest, the ant colony discovers my dropped potato skin. Bowing to the floor, the refugee accepts sanctuary. Bowing to the floor, the refugee accepts sanctuary. And thanks to Lynette, I scribbled this down. Turning into the cemetery, the dawn ignites the tombstones. Purple as the daisies I have for you today. Turning into the cemetery, the dawn ignites the tombstones. Purple as the daisies I have for you today.
Thank you for that. And thank you for coming today. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you all know that. Francis Flavin.
Greetings, everyone from Nevada. I was out in the wilderness for a few days, surviving the Mormon crickets and the remnants of the hurricane. These two offerings sort of relate somewhat remotely to Labor Day. The first one a little more directly. First one's called Blue Collar. I'm not blue collar now, except on summer Saturdays with yard and lawn work, or the short days of November with wood to be chopped and equipment prepared for winter's looming gales. Along the road are hard laborers with pride in their strength and the resilience of youth. I see the older workers stooped in pain and fatigue, slogging on to an uncertain future. Ensconced at my computer stand, I'm safe from all that now. No, I'm not blue collar, except in my upbringing, my creaking bones, and this black and blue heart. The second one is, this lays in the intersection of somewhere of flash fiction, flash nonfiction, and poetry. It's was published in Beyond Words, and it's called Twilight Passage. It took the old man a long time to settle himself down on a little knoll. His body, ravaged from overuse, injury, and illness, did not easily accommodate any position. Sharing this quiet time at the end of the day was a daily ritual. It was a healing time to share insights, sights, and feelings. There at the edge of the forest, they were poised between inner and outer worlds reality and imitation, and imagination that would soften and merge as the day fell gently into dusk. As was their habit, when the sun slipped near the horizon, all conversation ceased, and they waited for the deer to appear. In the silence, the boy's mind meandered. He was only faintly aware of the old man's labored breathing. After a while, the last rays of the setting sun no longer penetrated the forest undergrowth. The deer appeared without sound or apparent movement, as if a curtain were lifted to reveal their presence. Shadows on the edge of shadows, elusive and ephemeral beings treading the edges until only shadows remained. The boy watched until darkness swallowed the woodland scene, and the hoot of a nearby owl announced night's approaching dominion. Absorbed in the calls of the whippoorwill, night heron, and the frogs in the nearby marsh, was several minutes before he realized that he could no longer hear labored breathing. The last shard of the sun's afterglow retreated to the west. The old man had gone home. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we've got some melancholy moments today in these works. Very powerful. Well put together there, Francis. James.
Thank you, Glenn. I've got 3 dedicated to a little bit more sadness, but not entirely. Are you with me?
I am. I'm sorry about that noise that you just
No,
heard.
nothing. This first one's called Dark Trees. On a clear night, dark trees against a dark sky all but disappear. Tonight, cloud cover filters the city's lights. A fog curtain listens as if after the last note of the Moonlight Sonata has drifted into where there ought to be the moon. Spring buds on that 80-foot sycamore across the street stand out in place of missing stars. This one was prompted by a piece that Mary Oliver had written. And my title is Unless the Wind Visits. Imagine you are a tree, just standing there looking the way you look when we are looking. When we are not looking, we suspect you are dancing rather than just standing there, loving every moment of those rings growing with nothing different. Unless, of course, the wind visits in its strange moods. If we think about it, your patience and what must be your happiness can gobsmack us, just as much as our sorrowful angst exceeds our imagination as witnesses to you and the thousands of your cousins having been ripped roots and all by that 100-mile-per-hour straight line thunderstorm last month. And last, this is describing trees. The problem with describing trees has nothing to do with trees. The problem with describing trees has to do, rather, with the obsessive, compulsive desire to describe, on the one hand, and the limits learning has placed upon language, on the other. A tree, like the rose, we were told, is a tree. When it becomes a delight, it is no longer a tree. It has become light, which, for all intent and purpose, for a poet is rather beyond measure, but may return us to our senses. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. The thing of poets, we sometimes try to imagine what it's like to be a tree.
Yeah.
Try to see the world from those different perspectives. Okay, well, Elizabeth's friend, Bob Moreland.
I'll take that. That's a great credit. Okay, so I've got 3. First one. Leon, Back Bay Station, Boston. A twinkle in his eye. He sells the morning news, but I know his secret. A manager gone south, he to follow his wildest dreams, disembarking the infernal rat race to paint with inflamed passion the very life he longs to suck the marrow from. How I long to stand with him in the early morning chill, sell cappuccino with the news, and follow my wildest dreams. Sail the South Pacific in my mind and write the great American novel. Yet I'm so afraid to let go, clinging tenuously to the daily drudgery of routine. What will be remembered when the rat race is done? The years of faithful service as we oiled the human machine and offered sacrifices upon the altar of fast track and mammon, or a twinkle in our eyes that brightened the day of many a weary traveler. Thank you. Okay. So it is a fine August here on Lake Michigan. And here's your fine August poem. I may have read this before, but if I have, I give it to you again. It's something that is becoming extinct, the drive-in. This is called Keno Drive-In. Summer's end, as a double feature plays, we cuddle in Dad's borrowed Chevrolet, munching the last of the pretzels as you, my girl, use my shoulder as your pillow, ending inevitable right triumphs as the hero targets the vile villain. Cotton candy lost during a stolen kiss acts like flypaper, tacking your gingham down on the faded blue cloth upholstery. Soon, autumn's chill will try to erase these summer memories, but not tonight. Thank you. And the last one is for my sophomore English teacher, who basically inspired me to write. So all of you teachers out there, you have no idea of the power you have. This is called Notre Dame. For Emmeline Ellard, who believed in me. Brilliant summer day as the walk down the West Bank is as promised past the Louvre. Vendors on the Seine stand at last before Charlemagne, the edifice I always dreamed of. Scaffolds, while they refurbish, rose window grander than I hoped, as the clock chimes 6, summer's eve falling. Hear bells toll out music divine, go back the years and remember you. Sophomore English to be a bore, but you inspired us to soar, to dream, introduced romance of the muse, gave me hope that my words could touch hearts, planting seeds, changed life evermore. Your given name was Emmeline, in respect for Mrs. Ellard, yet I owe you the craft, the song. For smiling, you believed in me, giving hope the day would come. 3 decades hence, memories rich, pencil drawing of Notre Dame, standing now before the grandeur, wish you were here to hold my hand and feel the muse proclaim, look up. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you said you did the poem about the drive-in. You never hear about those anymore. You know, when I was a kid, we used to go to this drive-in called the Starlight. It's in near South Bend, Indiana, and my twin brother and I, you know, we had this old Chevy station wagon and had these like 3 rows of seats. In the back row of seats you could fold down, right? You remember those? She would stuff us in there so she didn't have to pay for us to get in. And we'd go to the movies and they would pick movies that were family friendly, except this was a dual drive-in. So there was a screen in front and then there was a screen behind us. So we would be, you know, the back of the car with our blanket and stuff because we would fall asleep way before the shows were over. And they would always do the kids show first and then, you know, something more for the grown-ups. And we'd always look behind us to see what we could see on the other screen because that was where the naughty stuff was, you know, whatever was going on, violence and mayhem. And anyway, it's just wonderful how poetry can just, one word like that can just
Yeah.
pop something into your head like that and bring back a memory. And oh man, God bless you for that. That's just wonderful. I'm so glad you mentioned that today.
We still have a drive-in in Tulsa.
You do. That's
Yeah.
great.
It's called the Admiral Twin. It's a screen in the middle of the lot so that you park on one side, you see that screen, you park on the other side, you see that screen, and they run different films, obviously.
Neat.
But
Do they do the broadcast on the radio thing, or do you have to hang
it's an FM. Yeah, it's an FM thing now. I remember the day when you had to hang it on the windows.
Yeah, you hung it on the window.
And in the
Everybody
winter,
remember?
And in the winter, it was terrible.
Yeah, because it was open and it would rain and you wouldn't want to leave because it wasn't raining that bad and you thought maybe it would clear up and so you'd be getting wet. So that was, yeah, I remember. That was great. Okay, Doug.
Hi, everybody. This first poem was prompted by a friend of mine who sent me a script that was based during the Vietnam War period. It's entitled Draft Lottery. Luck, blindfolded like Lady Justice. I don't remember the number, just that it was barely good enough to escape a bullet whistle from the chamber. But if the JFK, LBJ, Nixon Vietnam trap had snared my rabbit's foot, a bullet would have been better than Napalm's Holocaust, Agent Orange's long, unremitted growl and howl. At the time, gratified not to be the picked bloom, anointed by a drill sergeant with an M16 voice, at 18 or 22, was why just a letter? Could I have taken orders? Sir, yes, sir. A simile for I do? Paths not taken are a crossword puzzle. The blanks fill with too many limps and missing limbs, scars that could have been me. 50 years and guilt cyst is still there. My name on paper pages and clouds, not instilled in a black granite wall, a V that was not victory, not one of the 58,318. Thankful no one rubs a finger over my etched name, a tear battling to cling to a cheek, fireflies blinking as far as can be seen. And the second poem is lighter but longer. It's entitled, His Failed Attempts Were a Pyramid Scheme. I want to write my own epitaph, but I am not happy with an apple that fell not far from the tree, but rolled down the hill into the tall grass. Or, he milked it for all it was worth, life's teeth were so sore. So I keep rewriting, trying to get it right. He claimed the bullseye was a missing moving target. He failed to fire the chambered bullet. He squealed the tires, laid rubber, and lost control. It was never his ambition to be the teaser horse. Women, whew, that's a whole other subject. As you can see, my cuckoo sings out loud and clear as a peacock's fan. I stumble through a creek of words, try to fish out a meaning, but all the carp jump over my boat. So I set aside the task, fold the hand I was dealt, put my head down and bore into myself like a beheaded praying mantis. That's why I say, women, whew, that's a whole other subject. I never could count on myself. I betrayed the lesser of two evils. I tried to justify what I did when you were looking away. Trust in your back pocket, saying, it was a good thing. That was a broken lock. Looking the other way stares at me. Guilt is the missing cream filling between the two chocolate wafers. I dance like a lottery ball, make decisions like a sledgehammer, fail like an overheard whisper. And as is always the case, the future runs past me. How about his life was a zoo. But that would be unfair to the reptiles, birds, amphibians, marsupials, and most mammals, all but certain primates. The ones that scurry out from the back room, jump off, grab the cage's bars, screech, then smile to the cock-grabbing crowd's delight. Repeated like a metronome, the crowd swells a crescendo until he reaches down, points his penis, and sprays his golden effluence over the crowd. His laughter rings like the grade school tardy bell. So I will keep attempting to summit the summit of my existence, knowing what I got right was left in the dust, swallowed but never chewed, that sometimes the moon is in the same sky as the sun, and the beauty of never getting it right are all the non-blue ribbons of he tried. Oh well, the time has come when the helium leaks and the balloon sinks. I must choose an epitaph from all the polished apples. And today's golden delicious is, he was a lemon people grated zest from. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have a third poem today?
No, I
Okay.
thought that second one was lengthy. So.
It was great though. I really like that line. Sometimes the moon is in the same sky with the sun, or it's pretty nice. Debbie Walker last, please.
Hey y'all, I've missed you. Missed y'all.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, I've been through a lot. My dad very recently died, and I spent a lot of time in Michigan this summer, and it wasn't pleasant, but I'm glad to be home and trying to get my stuff back together again. But I'm also his executor, so there's that. But I'm just trying to breathe in between the spaces that when I'm, able to be here and get a little bit grounded. I did write a high bun for my dad, but unfortunately, I just do not have the courage to read it yet. But I will, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the high bun form, there's like a hat at the top, like a little story, and then the end is haiku. And I will read the haiku part because my dad was slyly humorous, kind of like Doug's poetry. And so the story is, it's sad, but at the same time, there's some humor in it. And the haiku at the bottom is, "Oh, Father, the love clings to you like the gray ash from your last scratch off. Oh, Father, the love clings to you like the gray ash from your last scratch off." He was big on scratch off. So maybe next time I'll be able to read the actual high bun. This is a high bun that I wrote. I've been experimenting with this form and I really, really love it. And I just recently had this published by the Ekphrastic Journal in response to the Monet painting of the bridge with the water lilies. It's called A Bridge. She was supposed to be like everyone else, crossing the bridge at the exact right time. Cheerleader hair, semi-neatly swept upwards, thick thighs covered in Lululemon. An artist, creator of winsome disarray, time skewed, sometimes too early, and often embarrassed about being late. A huge canvas to muddle through that lively, feckless brain, shooting messages in multiple directions, all leading away from the bridge and toward heedless abandon, although her intentions were good, always good. Be a good girl. Wash your hair, just put it up. You're young, your face will carry until finally that $1 million smile quit working its charm. The oven was too hot. She baked too close to the heat. The kiln failed the clay, and today, the most significant day so far, her friends lined the bridge like so many similar frosted cakes, perfectly cool, just waiting to be eaten, waiting to take a bite as well, ravenously hungry like her, but unlike her, They will all ascend the bridge together. No one says her name. And then the haiku is, spotless line of girls, cats and gowns, sunlight shimmer, cross over to new life. And the second one is also a high bun. It's a little lighter. Bowie wasn't just an artist, he was a lifestyle. I knew many people obsessed with recording artists in the late 70s. There was Fran, who punched a girl in the face for disagreeing that the Stones were the greatest rock and roll band to ever have existed, period. And Penny, who convinced me to go to a party dressed exactly like her. Twin Alice Coopers, garish eyeliner dripping down our excessively painted faces. We scared all the children. But my devotion to Bowie was another level, way up in the stratosphere with Major Tom, a co-pilot trying my best to right the rapidly swirling tin can airship. Dashing home from the bus stop down the dusty country road with Amy, a semi-willing potential convert to Bowie mania, I dragged her down the hall to my room where I blasted the thin white Duke 10 on my record player. Mother and brother be damned, screaming out every nuanced, perfectly set lyric, just in case my dumbfounded hostage couldn't understand. Every single word. I cut my hair in the front to approximate the feathery style of Ziggy Stardust and wore gold lame tops to school. My shoes were huge platforms, an homage to David in cracked rough leather, one of the many items I copped from the Vital Vintage in the city. It was a way of being bigger, more daring, taller even. I stood out in our rural high school and in retrospect wouldn't change a thing. All night Bowie crooned in his stupendously sonorous mix of baritone and tenor, I want the young American. And we were them. We were the young Americans, Amy and me. Where are the lyrics, she asked, transfixed. The very next weekend, we hitched to Vital Vintage, almost identical feathered haircuts blowing in the gritty wind. And the haiku is, Bowie, you shook me, eyes glazed, running down country roads, stardust in my veins. Thank you.
Thank you. It just brings you back, doesn't it? Makes you feel like you're there. Ground control. All right. We're going to move on to Carol Casey.
Yeah, hi. I have pneumonia. That's why I'm able to be here, which is a blessing. But if in case and that's why I'm coughing if I cough. Hopefully I can get through this though. This first one, I've got two songs that I picked that were kind of seasonal, or I figured they were, and they're got a lot of insects in them. And the first one was published in a little chapbook by the League of Canadian Poets in memory of Leslie Strutt, who was a wonderful friend and mentor to many of us. And so it's sort of about grief and sort of about all sorts of other things. So it's called Cicada Song Longing. Cicadas make me think of electricity, torrents of ions singing with the power of incompletion, a symphony of yearning for the melody. No butterfly hue, dragonfly whimsy, or praying mantis flare, a lace-wing locomotive, subterranean-born tree stalker singing summer away. Mating call sizzle, part snake, part jigsaw. His one note wakens longing, raises heat, missing puzzle parts. She hears, stirs, finds her way. I am cicada song, a crying out, electrons buzzing, sizzling toward nothing particulate. The quality is in the movement, in the calling for the part that completes. Sometimes I want to stop the flow, take a photograph, live in sepia. Cicada song is a flying river, rock, grass, muddy places, crests, little fishes growing that I am. The impulse glows blood, for blood must move. I am water, cells, droplets of food and air, sung in one note, longing, rising, swelling, overflowing into some immensity. And I have one more poem, that's all. And it's again about got insects in it, but turns out to be about a lot of other things. Because it is cicada and cricket time right now, at least in Canada, or around here, probably a lot of the States too. So this is called chorus. Contralto of cricket, soprano of cicada, a dream symphony of chirps and buzzes. I'm back in a first summer night, first firefly, first flame, first marshmallow trickling. Mother, father, young again, alive and tending. So much not born, so much not lost. The crickets string a medley of summer nights in chorus with my heart. It drifts among the moon and stars, faithful, unfathomable, so unreachable by little me, feet in damp grass, swatting mosquitoes.
Thank you so much for that. Something about cicadas, isn't there? That's you bring so much. I've thought about this, because I don't know. I've written cicada poems and have never met a cicada poem I didn't like. I guess just about. And you hear them after you get off work and the day's winding down, right when the best stuff happens, and you're sitting on the porch, and they're just doing that thing where they start over here and then they answer over here, and it's just great. And I think it's a perfect example of how certain subjects, the reader imports something, some feeling, something to the work, which makes it bigger than the words themselves, because it's a collaboration between the reader and the poet, not just the poet speaking to the reader, but it's kind of a conversation in the reading of it. It's just beautiful. You did a great job with that. Thank you for that. It's not just a subject. I mean, you presented it really well, and appreciated that. Okay, well, let's wrap things up with Bob Whalen.
Hi, guys. I often wait to hear, read the room. And I've got 3 poems. One would be for Doug, and the other one would be for Debbie, and the last one would be for Carol. And it's going to make Glenn happy because cicadas are in rhythm. This is called A Sky Fell Silent. A sky fell silent and earth stopped shaking. The stench of putrid smoke carried away on the wind. Tourniquets no longer twist, bleached of bloodstains, white bedsheets loft in the breeze, waving flags of truce. Bridges span different shores, free of the clumping boots. There is no screaming, just the flowing water. Open windows return with the warm presence of light, driving away darkness. In a room after supper, boards whispering creaks as the chair softly rocks, the rhythm of breathing. Bare-chested young men return home from plowed fields, not broadcast with corpses or irrigated with blood. Laughter of women, lofting of birdsong, blends with the perfume of poppies in the late afternoon. And the second one is a haibun, and I was glad you read a haibun because I rarely ever get a chance to do it. You're right, it is an incredibly great form. I like it. I'm still wrestling with it though. And this is called Shiseikan, which is in Japan at the Meiji Shrine. It is a dojo, a place to train, and they teach traditional arts there. Such hard work, motionless sitting on a floor so polished it reflects my position. Yet the grain in the wood distorts it as if it were a slightly shimmering surface of a silent pond. Outside, cicadas, having no knowledge of sunlight, have emerged after 17 years of darkness. That time marked only by eating and sleeping. Their electric buzz fills the sky with the reverberating hum of a transformer station at the edge of capacity. Inside the dojo, both air and body share the same temperature. The atmosphere is so saturated that my sweat cannot evaporate, so drips with gravity into a puddle on the floor. The wind is still, save for the beating of an insect's wings. I try to make my mind as still as the absent breeze, but it bears the intrusive movement of distraction. Window butterfly, fluttering against the glass. Can we both get free? And the last one is entitled Cicada. And cicadas in Japanese have an important meaning. They're a meaning of transience and things that pass. So, cicada. Wind ripples in patterns of nodding marsh grass leap with cat's paws across the still surface of a brackish estuary, poised in between incoming and outgoing tide. The current shifts its journey, releasing clear water into softly lapping surf, slaking the sea's salty thirst. The sun floats, traveling at light speed through a day which now will only shorten. A daughter runs along the edge of this barrier island, her robe floating behind her, hugging her shoulders through summers measured in waves of dissolving soul prints, abandoned shells, stones, and etched sea glass. A father basks in the joy of her dance and momentarily turns away, searching for driftwood for a fire to chase away the night's inevitable darkness, returning again to warmly gaze as she splashed into the welcoming sea. The robe she wore dropped on the shore, an abandoned husk, the waves quiet as they changed direction. It was then he heard the cicadas sing. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to wrap this up with a couple comments, but I would invite everybody to stay for a quick announcement. And then, but thank you everyone on YouTube and Facebook and elsewhere that came to enjoy this poetry reading. And we do this on the last Saturday of every month, generally speaking. So we invite you to check back. And if you want to be invited to something like this, you can reach out and ask. If you're well published, we would be very, very happy to have you. And we'll see you next month.